McLaughlin. I'm the Managing Director of Home Buying and Ownership, which is a division of personal and business banking for RBS.
Hi, I'm Dan Salmons and I'm the Director of Innovation for Home Buying and Ownership.
So a bit of context then. So the clue's in the title. We help people buy their homes and live well in them. We serve about 330,000 customers a year, so we're top 3 in the UK. And a very fast-growing business in the south of Ireland with UBI DAC as well. Do you want to talk a little bit about the pain points that customers still tell us they suffer from?
Yeah, and we've probably got some ideas around pain points, things that are a problem for customers today, and then also new things that really no one does well today that we think we could stretch out into, and it would be awesome to have ideas for.
Yeah.
If we look at pain points, things like when you're applying for a mortgage, as you go through the process, how do you know where you are?
Yeah.
You know, people tend to call us up to ask how it's going and what's happening. We'd love for them to have a really clear, easy way to tell how the process is going. We'd also really like it that after they've got their mortgage, they stay in touch with us, they stay engaged. At the moment, once they've got that paperwork, it may be a year or two before they next think of calling us or talking to us. What sorts of things could we be doing that would keep them engaged, keep them alive to what we offer?
The other thing that people tell us is a nightmare in getting a mortgage is actually collating all the data and the information, both you as an individual, so your pay slips, your bank statements, all of that stuff that you probably have somewhere, but when someone says, could you bring it in tomorrow, you have that little feeling of, oh. So is there any way to electronically do that that makes it easy for customers and easier for us? Likewise, the other thing we've got to underwrite is the property. So lots of people use property search engines. Is there a way of tapping into that better to allow us to do a valuation of the property without having to physically send out a surveyor and with his leather elbow patches and his Ford Mondeo to go and actually knock the walls in the property and make sure it's there and it is worth what the customer's buying? So I don't know how many people that will be in the room will have gone through this process themselves or know people that have. But if you have or you do know people, you'll have had the conversations about what I hated was this, if only there was an easier way. That's what we'd love people to think about.
Don't worry about doability, just think about...
You can think for a second. I'll tell you my dream for customers on this is that, be it me as a customer or anyone else, walking down a street in a town I want to live in and seeing a property that I think that's the one that is perfect for us. Not even knowing if it's on the market, but being able to take a photograph of it on my phone and actually send it to my bank and get a big green tick that appears on my phone like that, because the bank is able to do the affordability in the background and find what that property last sold for and tell me that I'm good for it and I could buy it. If we could have that real time with all the stuff that needs to happen behind the scenes, just digitized, automatic and instantaneous, that would be game changing for us as a bank and for customers.
And I'd add a couple of other things would be lovely to have. One would be, a lot of people start thinking about the mortgage long before they approach the bank. What could we be doing even at the time of saving or looking around or thinking about it that would be a useful thing for customers? And then also the other thing that's a real pain point for customers is that the time of moving, all the different things you've got to arrange from removals to utility switching to all the rest of it. Is there something we could offer that would take away the pain of planning and managing that whole experience? That would be awesome.
Can I give one other one that might be of real interest to people actually in the room? And this is a slightly cheeky one. The 6th biggest lender in the United Kingdom is the Bank of Mum and Dad. So people that have got equity or money of their own. So this is to all the people's parents in the room. They're going to hate this idea. But something that allowed us to actually look at families and say, do you know what, you might not be able to afford that €200,000 or pound flat, but we know your parents are good for 800,000 in the background. If we package that all together, maybe we could find a way of doing some sort of family or intergenerational type lending that would work for all parties involved, because lots of parents do want to help their children get on the property ladder. So that might be one that would make us very unpopular when everyone goes home and says, you'll never guess what I'm working on, Dad. But that's a genuine need.
Okay, that's very good. Okay, that's great. I mean, that's all perfect, to be honest with you. Is there anything last?
Thanks, so I'm Kevin Hanley. I'm the bank's Director of Innovation.
Okay. And open banking falls under your remit?
It does. Open banking and innovation, and I think they sit really comfortably together, actually. So I think when we think about the future of banking, banking is becoming more open, it's becoming more collaborative. We recognise that we need to partner with others to do new and insightful things that combine our assets and capabilities with the assets and capabilities of others in ways that are valued and trusted by our customers, and our regulators are forcing us in that direction as well, and specifically through open banking regulation. Through the work that we've done, we've created a nice sort of API environment. We've created sort of nice bundles of functionality that we've now wrapped and we can make available to others, and that's where it gets really exciting. And it gets really exciting in events like we're having today, because today is all about how we use some of that functionality and tapping into the smarts of others to work out how we can combine some of the data that we have and some of the functionality that we have to create some new services. And that's where it starts getting really interesting. It stops being a regulatory agenda, and it starts to become a much more strategic agenda, and we start to think about how we can use some of this functionality for the benefits of our customers. And as I say, that's where it starts to get really exciting.
So what we have noticed in some of the hackathons that we've done previously is sometimes there's been a preponderance of solutions in some areas.
Yeah.
So we're kind of wanting individuals to reach out. Any sort of thoughts on areas to maybe avoid or areas to focus on?
I'm going to try and avoid being really, really specific. I mean, it is, as you say, Alan, I think if you look back over previous hackathons that we've run, you probably see a preponderance of solutions around personal financial management, or generally in the sphere of what I would call kind of nudging type solutions, so encouraging our customers to go and do something based on what we've seen historically.
Yeah. Maybe
Solutions around sort of charitable donations and sort of a few other sort of categories. So at the risk of steering people away from those are things that we know have come up in the past, and more that you can start with a thought process that sort of imagines a world in 2 to 3 years' time, and then thinks through, well, kind of what can we do to position us for that future. I would encourage people, to be big and bold and think backwards from the future as opposed to forwards from today.
Another thing we've noticed is that people understand personal banking because everyone has a personal banking account. People don't, necessarily think about the SME market, small medium enterprise or large corporates. Any kind of thoughts on those?
No, it's a good observation. I think retail banking and sort of personal banking in any description is something that I think people naturally gravitate towards. So it's a good steer. Anything in the SME space, anything in the sort of new business space, anything in the large corporate space, I would encourage. I think it's also worth thinking on a pan-industry or a cross-industry basis as well. I think oftentimes our thinking is limited by sort of narrow preconceptions of what we think financial services or the business of banking is about. And one of the big trends that we see as an organisation is, I think, increasingly industry boundaries are becoming blurred, they're becoming less distinctive. Oftentimes the customer needs that we are trying to meet are much broader than a narrow definition of financial services. It's becoming a little bit of a cliche now, but it's the difference between us potentially selling a mortgage versus a customer thinking that they're buying a house. I mean, that is a bit of a cliche, but if you think it through from a customer perspective, their needs, their bigger purpose is not really a financial transaction. That's a small part of a much bigger journey, and I would encourage people over the next few days really to think things through from a customer perspective and think about what it is that we're providing that makes a difference to them, and that may be much broader than a narrow definition that we have of the industry at the moment, I think.
So maybe a final question might be, and you mightn't be able to answer this in some ways, but we'll see. If you just imagine the world where nothing's impossible, right? Because some of these kids that come to the hackathons are magicians.
I know.
So if we could just pull a rabbit out of the hat, if there's something that you would just love to see. Is there anything in particular, even just a general area that you'd love to see something and really sort of pique your interest?
So you like asking impossible questions, Alan. So I would love to see, at a broad level, I would love to see solutions coming out in the next couple of days which are customer centric and really think things through from a customer perspective. And I would love to uncover something that we can deliver at scale to our customers that make a meaningful difference. Starts to be really exciting, as opposed to maybe something that's a little bit niche or focused on a particular customer area. And maybe if I had one other steer, and this is an observation at an industry level as much as it is a bank, I think as an industry we are particularly innovative around how banking services are provided. I mean, literally, if you look at the last 10 years, we have a rich heritage of changing the delivery channel for what we do. And you can see that literally in the migration of activity from branch to web to mobile. But the underlying products themselves haven't really changed an awful lot in the last 10 years. There's still a product set that's, I think, outdated. And I think at an industry level, we are ripe for a new era of customer-led product design. I think there's a generational lag actually in terms of the services and the products that we provide. And I would encourage people to think through not only the delivery mechanism or thinking through how things are done, but also thinking about the what it is that we provide. If you can think about the what and the how together, then it starts to get really exciting.
Okay, that's good.
Thank you very much. No, thank you very much. And best of luck to everyone. It's going to be a really exciting couple of days.